For joining us at the Acton Town Hall. And for those joining remotely, good morning, and please make sure to click OK to accept the recording. Today we're going to talk about aging safe at home and fall prevention. The program is presented by Cheryl Ball, the Director of the Board of Health for the Town of Acton, Sue Ross, Occupational Therapist from Acton, Wade Messamore, the ALS Coordinator for the Acton Fire Department, and myself, I'm Jill Salomon, the Public Health Nurse for the Town of Acton. The program is being taped and will be available over the next few weeks on Acton Cable TV. For any questions, we will have a Q&A session at the end. For those listening remotely, please use the chat feature or the raise the hand feature on your computer. The program is sponsored by a grant provided from Leahy Hospital and Medical Center and Winchester Hospital through the Massachusetts Department of Public Health Determination of Needs process. We have a lot of information to present, and for those of you that are here, we do have handouts in the back to cover most of our information. Today, we will talk about fall facts for adults over 65 and the toll that falls are taking on our aging population, the benefits of physical activity and staying active, and Sue will talk about creating a safe living environment, and Wade will talk about emergency services. So falls have reached epidemic proportions in the United States. Almost 1 in 3 adults over the age of 65 fall per year. By 2030, 1/3 of all Americans will be over 65 years. About 36 million falls are reported among older adults each year, resulting in 32,000 deaths. 75% of all falls occur in and around the home, usually during routine activities. Every 19 minutes, an older adult dies from a fall-related activity. Falling once doubles the chance of falling again. Falls account for 25% of all hospital admissions and 40% of all nursing home admissions. Of those who fall, 50% will never return to their prior level of mobility or independence. And with hip injuries, 95% of hip fractures are caused by falling, usually by falling sideways. And for about half of those discharged from the hospital with a fall-related hip fracture will fall again within 6 months. The yearly cost of falls in the United States right now is $50 million are spent on medical costs related to non-fatal fall injuries. $754 million are spent on related to fatal falls. The financial toll for older adults is expected to reach over $100 billion by 2030. And there's fear of falling. Falls with or without injury negatively impact quality of life. A growing number of adults fear falling and as a result limit their activities and social engagements. So fear of falling can result in further physical decline, depression, social isolation, and feelings of helplessness. Here's the cycle of falling. Someone falls, they have a fear of falling, they decrease their activity, there is decreased muscle strength and balance, and then increased risk of falling. There are several risk factors of falling. There are lower body weakness, vitamin D deficiency, difficulty with walking and balance, many health conditions, use of medications, vision problems, use of bifocals when walking, improper footwear and foot pain, and home hazards or dangers. Most falls are caused by a combination of these risk factors, and the more risk factors a person has, the greater the chance of falling. Many older adults take medications for sleep disorders, anxiety, high blood pressure, and chronic pain. Potential side effects from these medications can increase risk of falling. As we age, there are physical changes in our bodies that affect absorption, distribution, metabolism, and excretion of medication. This can all result in a buildup of medication in the body, which again can increase risk of falls. Use of psychoactive drugs has a 47% increase in risk of falling, and 53% of older adults take one or more psychoactive medication for depression, anxiety, insomnia, or pain. It is very important to have routine medication review with your healthcare provider. Inappropriate prescribing and polypharmacy are frequently found in elderly patients at hospital admissions and following a fall. Routine medication review with your healthcare provider, including all medications prescribed by specialists and all over-the-counter medications, is a big step for fall prevention. It's also very important to have a complete medication review upon discharge from a hospital, because sometimes in the hospital they will change your medications, and so they should be reviewed upon discharge. Falls are not a normal part of aging. You have the power to reduce your risk through exercise and staying active, medication management, annual vision checks, creating a safe living environment. Talk to your family or healthcare provider if you have a fall. Many aging adults fall and do not tell their family members. They do not tell their healthcare providers, so no changes are made, and they have an increased risk of falling again. So these are the benefits of physical activity and staying active for the aging adult. Staying active lowers your risk of cardiovascular disease, hypertension, type 2 diabetes, and certain cancers. It helps improve cognition and lowers the risk of dementia, reduces anxiety and reduces risk of depression, improves sleep and lowers the risk of fall and fall-related injuries, and helps you stay independent. The World Health Organization defines physical activity as any movement, bodily movement, produced by skeletal muscles that require energy expenditure. This includes movement during leisure time, transport to and from places, or as part of work. Keep it simple and try to move more. Find a friend or a group to exercise with. Here in Acton, we have a lot of great options at our Council on the Aging. Talk to your doctor about any health concerns or about starting a new program. Choose activities that you enjoy. There are different types of physical activity, including aerobic activity, strength training, balance training, and then other types of activity like flexibility or combination of activities. Aerobic activity improves stamina and heart health. The recommendation is to build up to 150 minutes a week of moderate intensity activity 3 to 5 days a week. This can be broken up into smaller segments of 5 to 10 minutes. If you are not able to achieve this, then be as active as you can. All movement is beneficial. Strength training. Strength training can be working with weights, your own body weight or resistance bands. It can make daily tasks like lifting items much easier. You should do strength training 2 or more days a week with a rest day in between. If you need it, get help from an exercise professional to teach proper form and technique. Balance activities improve your ability to resist forces that can cause you to fall, and this lowers your risk of injury if you do fall. Stay safe and get help to do balance exercises safely, and you should do balance activities 3 or more times a week. Other types of physical activity include flexibility and stretching. Gentle range of motion can help lubricate your joints, and a combination of activity that includes different types of exercises like Tai Chi, yoga, and dancing. Every little bit counts. There's so much we can do to prevent falls. Have your vision checked regularly, review your medications with your doctor, take care of your feet by wearing proper footwear and seeing a podiatrist, have your balance checked, stay active, and make sure your home is safe. And now Sue Ross will come to talk about environmental considerations for safety in the home.
Good morning. There has been an increasing interest in support of older adults who want to live more independently at home and for a longer period of time. Accessible and safe homes offer an essential foundation for building a meaningful life as we age. Most seniors want to stay in their homes as they age. Moving out of your home comes with both physical and emotional stress, and many seniors are afraid of leaving behind beloved neighbors and their family home that's full of memories. So what I'm going to do with the slides is go room by room through your home and make some recommendations of what it would make it a safer environment for you. We're going to start with talking about two terms that you may hear. One is universal design, and that is the design and composition of an environment so that it can be accessible and used by all people of all ability levels to the greatest extent possible without the need for adaptation. This allows for improved human performance, health and wellness, and social participation. So that's universal design. Accessibility usually refers to a minimum compliance with prescriptive codes and standards for people with disabilities. I just want to mention here that smoke alarms are mandated in the homes in Massachusetts, as well as carbon monoxide detectors, which are required if your home has fossil fuel burning equipment or is attached to an enclosed garage. That's mandatory in the state of Massachusetts. So we're going to start with the entry to the house, the entry and the exit, and the foyer. This area allows for a smooth transition in and out of your property. Ideally, at least have a 0-step exterior doorway if you can, and these are optimal standards. You want to consider an overhang when you go to enter your home. The reason for this is if you happen to be carrying things, maybe from your car, maybe from the outside into the home, to have a place to let those things rest while you manage a key or you manage something else is a safer thing to do than trying to multitask and carry some things and try to manage entry into your house. You always want to be sure that you have excellent lighting. Lighting is key in every venue of the house so that you're able to adequately see. If you have any light bulbs that go out or any switches that don't work, make sure that those are taken care of. Handrails are a real plus for steps if you're ascending or descending, again, to help with balance and stability as you're entering or exiting your home. You want to try to have a clear doorway width of at least 32 inches. You don't want to have a lot of clutter in the entry area. That can cause perhaps a fall or a trip. You don't want that to happen. Having a peephole in your door, your front door, much like you would have in a hotel, is a safe thing to have as well, so that you're able to see who is on the other side of the door. Door locks are imperative. You want to make sure that you have very adequate door locks for safety reasons. It's recommended that you, instead of having a knob, that you have a lever handle. And lever handles are something that you could push down, pull up, even with your elbow if need be. And also as some people age and their hands maybe get arthritic or they get weaker, it's more difficult to manage a doorknob. You want to make sure that you have a clear address number on your home. We have so many things that are delivered these days to us that you want to make sure that not only the postman, but Amazon, Uber, whoever is able to see where you live and that that's very clear. You want to make sure that you have a doorbell that works. Many people are going towards video doorbells, and that gives you the ability to see who is actually at your front door if you don't have a peephole. And having a landing station at the foyer or at the entrance is a really good thing to have. Landing station means maybe a bench, maybe a table, maybe something that you can put your, whatever you're carrying, your groceries, supplies that you're bringing in the house, put that down while you're able to manage entering the home. And here are some photographs of, or not photographs, but pictures of some possibilities. Some folks have decided that they already have a landing area, but it's chock full of things, so they clear that off and then they use it for a landing station. But those are some ideas in adapting your home or modifying your home. In the kitchen area, that's where safety is a primary focus for fires, spills, slips, trips and drops in the area where food and beverages are prepared. The floor can get slick. You want to make sure you have lighting, as I've mentioned, and I'll mention it with all the rooms, that lighting is key in the kitchen area. You want to make sure that your countertops are clear of unnecessary appliances. So many times we have maybe a mixer that we use only once a year, and you really don't need to have that on your countertop at all times. Sometimes we have appliances that have broken. You don't need them. Sometimes you have multiple appliances. So you want to make it as clear of clutter as possible. You want to bring the items that you're using to the countertop where they can be easily reached, usually between your hip and shoulder height, so that you don't have to do much bending or reaching, because that can be a consideration for a fall. If possible, choose appliances that have an automatic shutoff. Think of your coffee pot, think of your iron. Those are helpful, and they are a lot safer. You want to consider a countertop microwave oven as opposed to one that might be over your range or over your stove. Something on the countertop is going to be more easily accessible, and if you're pulling hot food out of that microwave, it's less likely to spill if you have the counter directly there in front of you as opposed to overhead. If you have the possibility of adding open shelving, that will give you a sense of where your items are within the cupboards instead of having to open all the cupboards individually each time. You can make use of drawers that you can reach, and some people have put their pots and pans in their drawers instead of having them down too low or perhaps up too high. People clear out a drawer and put the pots and pans that they use the most there so they're more easily accessible. You want to rearrange your items that are frequently used to locations where they're easy to reach. You want to make use of pantry with shelving. Take advantage of packaging that's easier to open. As time has gone on, so many of our packaging becomes harder to manage. Think of chip bags, think of any kind of bags or boxes. When possible, have a pair of kitchen shears available so that you can cut things open as opposed to trying to struggle and tear things apart. And here's some pictures of what the kitchen could possibly look like. You want to make sure, as I said, the lighting is good, that you have a less clutter or limited clutter on top of your countertop, appliances that shut off, and there's a photo of the open shelving as well as what it can look like if you put some of your pots and pans in drawers that are more accessible to you. Okay, in the dining area, this can be any room where you consume your meals. So some people eat at a table in a dining room or a kitchen or at a countertop on a bar stool. It can be in a variety of places. You want to make sure that you have chairs with armrests for support to get yourself up and down. So you want to secure your area rugs under the dining table. And what I mean by that is you can put non-skid matting underneath it. You can get double stick tape to tape your carpets down, particularly when you have carpets that have fringe on the end of them. I see a lot of that in people's homes. They're beautiful, but they can be a safety hazard, so you want to make sure those things are anchored down. If you are sitting on a bar stool at your kitchen countertop, you want to be very aware if it's a swivel stool. Those can be a dangerous situation if you go to sit on that and maybe aren't paying a whole lot of attention. So I would recommend, as opposed to swivel stools, more of a standard stool, or don't even sit on the stool for eating. You want to choose lightweight items for transporting them. It's very difficult to transport, say, a crock pot full of food items in there while you're walking and trying to balance, so you want to try to stick with lighter weight items. Consider a divided dinner tray so that food remains in place while you're carrying it. And minimize the number of food preparation utensils and vessels that you use so that you aren't spending a lot of time in the kitchen with washing your dishes afterwards. In the living room, that's a comfortable area where an awful lot of time is spent. Again, you want to be sure that you have adequate lighting. It can be overhead lighting, it can be lamp lighting, but you do want to make sure that you have adequate lighting in the space where you're going to be moving about. Tall items, furniture items should be anchored to the wall to prevent tipping. There have been some homes I've been in where somebody has actually put some pressure on a bookshelf and it's kind of come away from the wall. That's not a safe situation, so if you can anchor those things down, that's important. Exposed electrical cords can be a safety hazard. Make sure that you anchor those down in some way, and as time goes on, we have more and more cords that we're dealing with all the electronics, so be sure you have them out of the way so you don't trip. You want to make sure that you have adequate space to walk around your furniture, because if you have a narrow area to walk through, you're going to start to walk heel toe, and that throws your balance off. You want to make sure that you have space between your furniture, it's all furniture in your living space, so it'd be your couch, your chair, your coffee table, your footstool, anything else that you may have in there. You want to make sure that your footrest or ottoman is nearby but out of the way. You want to make sure that the area rugs are secured, as I mentioned earlier. Tabletop or small area near your favored location is important. So, for example, if you have a couch or a chair and you have a side table, that's a great space for you to stack some things up that you're going to be using more readily. It might be a glass of water, it may be a book, it might be your knitting, maybe something like that. Could be a remote control, a variety of things. Virtual assistants can provide voice-activated environment controls, and those things include, and not limited to, Alexa, Echo, Google Home. There's a variety of things out there that some people are starting to consider using, and some people do like those a lot. You also may want to consider having your lights on a timer and sync it up with the seasons so that your lights are going on at the appropriate time in the fall and again in the spring. And here is a picture of what your living room could look like. There's space between the furniture. There's a side table right next to the sofa there. There's adequate lighting. The footstool in this picture is actually underneath the table, so it's accessible, but it's out of the way and underneath the table. The rug is anchored down. And that's one of the tall bookshelves I was mentioning earlier that you want to be sure that you have anchored to the wall. And then the area of hallways and stairs. These are the areas that are frequently traveled to move from one room to another. It could be either to your basement. Some people live in split levels where there's a shorter staircase. Some people have a full second floor, a full set of stairs up to the second floor. Preferably have handrails on both sides. You want to make sure that you have accessible light switches at the top of the stairs and also at the bottom of the stairs. And make sure you use those. So many people will go up the stairs in the dark and then turn the light on once they get to the top of the stairs. Make sure you're using adequate light whenever you're traversing through your house in any location. You may want to use some night lights. They're a great idea, particularly if you're going to be having to frequent, for instance, the bathroom in the evenings or at night. Make sure you have night lights available so that you can see where you're going to be walking. Having the non-skid surfaces are important to have on the stairs. You want to consider having non-skid treads of some sort or a carpet on your staircase. It's easy to have socks on and you might skid on your stairs if you don't have the sticky underneath the socks. So make sure you have some type of friction that's applied to the stairs, be it treads or be it a rug when you're walking. You want to have access to a handheld tote or basket for items that need to be transported up and down the stairs. Sometimes folks that have a hard time going up and down the stairs or choose not to go up and down the stairs multiple times a day, if you can have a basket, say at the bottom of the stairs, and you enter several things that you would have taken upstairs maybe 3 times that day, and instead put them all in that basket, take them up once when you end up going to bed in the evening. And this is a picture of what a staircase could look like for you. There are rails on both sides. In this case, there's a carpet that goes up the staircase. You can also have treads, as I said. Make sure that in some of the older homes, there are nails that are sticking up through the boards in the stairs. Make sure those are nailed down adequately. That could be a tripping hazard, particularly if you're in stocking feet and your sock gets stuck on that exposed nail. You want to make sure, again, that your carpets are anchored down adequately to prevent any kind of falls. And there's a pink purse in that picture that's on a landing station that's been set up in the hallway. Some folks choose to use a stair lift. I've seen these in a number of homes used very well. If you're not able to go up and down the stairs, you're choosing to stay in your home. You don't want to risk falling by walking up and down those stairs. Some people do choose to have a chairlift like this, and those can be installed. I've seen chairlifts and flights of stairs that are 12, 13, 14 steps. I've seen some that are maybe only 8 steps, 6 or 8 steps. In your bedroom, this is typically where you take your evening rest and sometimes a daytime nap. You want to make sure that you have adequate lighting with accessible light switches near your entry door when you enter your bedroom. You want to assign an area for your electronics and a charging station, and that typically is right next to your bed. Doesn't always have to be there, but that's typically where people have it. And get into the routine of using that area all the time so you always know where your electronics are that you're using. You want to ensure that your tall furniture is secured to the wall. In some of the older homes, you may need to secure the nails into the wooden flooring, as I mentioned earlier. You want to make sure that you're able to open your windows. Some of the older windows in older homes are painted shut. So it's a safe thing to have those windows either replaced or make sure that the paint is adequately broken into so you're able to open and close your windows should you need to. You want to make sure that you have a night light or a motion sensor. Again, if you need to get up in the middle of the night for any reason, you want to have an area that's well lit. And I see more and more motion sensors being used because they're triggered just like that as soon as you get up and out of bed, and you don't have to worry about fumbling for a light switch or a lamp or anything like that. So those tend to work very nicely. Again, you want to secure your area rugs to the floor. Some people have wall-to-wall carpet in their homes with a smaller carpet on top, a smaller rug on top, and those can cause a hazard also, those small rugs. So you want to just make sure that everything is anchored down so you're not going to inadvertently trip over it. You want to make sure you have access to your telephone, be it a landline or your cell phone, should something happen. Again, many people put those directly right next to their bed on the bedside table. If possible, have your bed set up so that it allows access to both sides of the bed. It's quite difficult to be able, for instance, to change a bed or change the sheets if your bed is wedged in the corner. So it's recommended, if at all possible, to have adequate space on both sides of your bed. And another great idea is to have a flashlight available should perhaps all the lights go out in your house, electricity goes out. If you can have a flashlight that's available right next to your bedside table, maybe in the drawer, that is a great option to have so you're able to see and get around. Here's a picture of a bedroom. This bed has accessibility on all 3 sides of it. Night tables, there's a landline set up there. The flashlight is not on the wall, it's actually in the drawer in this picture. There's an alarm clock that also has a clock, and also there's adequate lighting there. In the bathroom, this is where toileting, bathing, dressing, and grooming occurs. The floor in the bathing area can be a slipping hazard. So here are some things you may consider to make it a safer environment. Make sure that your light switch is accessible as you enter. You may want to consider nightlight or a motion sensor, as we talked about earlier. Those are wonderful. If at all possible, have a comfort height toilet seat. Most toilets, standard toilets, are about 15 inches high. The higher the surface, so if you go up to 17 to 19 inches, the higher the surface, the easier it's going to be for you to get up from. Some people have put in toilet risers in their home. Some people have just, when they've replaced their toilets, just gotten toilets that are just made higher, 17 to 19 inches. And that definitely helps reduce falls because you're not having to get up from such a squatted position. Some people want to consider a bidet. Those help with cleansing, hygiene and cleansing to the peri area, as opposed to using toilet paper. You may want to have some open shelving or a spacious countertop for your toiletries and towels. Some of the sinks are just the pedestal sinks, and there's no room on them other than for the faucets. And you're not able to keep a toothbrush there or your dentures there or any of your hygiene items. So considering putting shelving on a nearby wall so you can easily access those things as opposed to maybe having to bend down to get them from a basket or from a cupboard is an easier and safer thing to do. You may want to have some grab bars installed, and I'm going to show you some photos of some grab bars here in a moment, because they have certainly changed over time. They don't look as institutional as they used to. Do not, under any circumstances, use your towel bar as a grab bar. Do not. Those aren't stable. They can fall apart, and if they go down and you're holding on to it, you too will go down as well. So be sure that you have, if you need a grab bar, that you actually have a grab bar that is secured to the wall through studs. If at all possible, use a handheld shower nozzle. So typically the showers have a faucet at the top, and then they have the shower head at the top. If you have a handheld shower nozzle installed, that gives you control over the water. So you can turn the water on, it's not spraying on you automatically, and it just makes for a safer situation when bathing. And you may want to have a permanent or portable tub shower seat in the bathing area, and I will show you some photos of those. So this is what a bathroom could look like. You have your more of a spacious countertop to put your toiletry items. You have a towel bar to the left that's not used as a grab bar. It is a towel bar. However, on the right, there is the shower with a handheld shower nozzle. There's non-skid, in this photograph, there's strips, non-skid strips on the floor. You can also get a non-skid mat that has suction cups on the bottom. That's available too. In this photograph, it shows the grab bar in the shower, and there's also an installed shower seat to sit on when you're showering, or maybe if you're just needing to take a break during that process. And these are some additional items that are useful. It's a reacher or a grabber. It's called both of those names, and it can be used for many things, particularly if things are out of reach. For some folks that have had different joint replacements, they use those because they just can't bend, flex at the hip, typically, in order to be able to acquire items. And there's some people using the reachers or the grabbers. They're very handy tools, and they're usually short-term. They're usually not a long-term thing to have, but they are wonderful. And there's some pictures of what a shower bench can look like on the left, and on the right, that's a tub transfer bench. The difference between the two is the one on the right has 4 legs, as is the one on the left, but 2 of the legs of the bench on the right are inside the tub, and 2 of the legs are on the outside of the tub. So it allows you to just sit and pivot into the tub as opposed to just having to lift up your feet to climb in. It's a safer situation. And there's in the right side picture, there's also a grab bar. And these are some other pictures of grab bars. But I wanted to show you, these are a little more modernized ones. So equipment companies got wise to what would appeal to some of their customers, and there can be a variety of grab bars that can be installed that look a little bit more modern for you. The bottom line is to keep your living areas clutter-free and organized. Really important. Now I'm going to go ahead and just address some technology things to consider. The personal emergency response systems can be of immediate assistance. All right. The gold standard is one with a motion sensor. Emergency services will be notified if someone falls and is unconscious. These are not dependent on pressing a button. Cell phones are made for elderly with large buttons, and it's important to learn how to use the technology, including your cell phone, before it becomes too difficult to learn. And I'm going to go back to the sensors that are available. There are actually on some of the newer cell phones, there's a sensor as well, whereas if there's a fall, you can program it to be able to have an emergency response check in on you to see if you need to have some assistance. But you can also get just a personal emergency response system that will do the same thing. They will call and check to see if you're okay and then respond or connect to the people who will need to respond for you. For crime prevention, you want to make sure that you have properly working locks and window hardware. You want to be sure that you can see outside of your windows without obstruction. So for example, if you have hedges in the front of your house, you want to be sure that the window is allowing you to see outside, perhaps over those hedges. You don't want to have anybody hiding behind those hedges. You want to make sure if you have an alarm system that that's working. You do not want to have any of your valuables in plain sight, even though you may live alone or you may live with somebody else, and you think everything is safe. It's a really good idea to have any of your valuable items and money stowed away somewhere in a drawer, someplace where they're just out of sight. You want to make sure that you have proper lighting on a timer for interior and exterior lights. Maintain the foliage for appropriate visibility, as I mentioned. You want to make sure that your cell phone is charged nightly, and you can use the contact for ICE. ICE stands for in case of emergency. So on your phone, you can put in a contact, capital I, capital C, capital E, and then put in the contact person who someone would call if something were to happen to you. You want to make sure that your location is turned on. You want to make sure that you check your credit report periodically. Make sure that it's in line with what you know to be true. You want to be reminded that I need to remind you that there is no foreign lottery or lost inheritance. Don't be scammed. Be wise when you get any kind of communication from somebody that you don't know. You also want to be alert to your surroundings, be aware of your situation, and it's always a good idea to know who your neighbors are and make sure they know who you are when you're coming and going is a great idea. And under identity theft, it's common knowledge that older adults are more vulnerable and targeted much more frequently than the general population. And they are less likely to report a scam and make poor witnesses. So these are some different kinds of scams. You might get a call from a supposed foreign government, from the IRS, from a company saying a bill is due. It might be from a relative that says they need money. It may be a charity scam. It may be an insurance scam asking for your personal information. It may say that you've won the lottery but need to pay fees or taxes. Any call that pressures you for money quickly, that you must act now, is a non-starter. Just be very, very aware. Do not give your personal information. So you want to check your credit report, hang up the phone, do not give any personal information, don't give any money over the phone, You might want to sign up with the do not call service. Sometimes we get so many different calls. If you put yourself on the list, you're more likely to get fewer calls. And then there's the Identity Theft Resource Center, which is a national resource. So you just want to be vigilant about those things. And when to call 911. So our next speaker is Wade Mesamore. He is the Advanced Life Support Coordinator with the Acton Fire Department, and he's going to address emergency services. Thanks so much.
Good morning. All right, so we're going to talk about when to call 911 and what happens when you call 911. First of all, the word emergency is a subjective term. Whatever you think is an emergency is an emergency. If you think you need police, fire, or ambulance, then you call. End of story. Doesn't matter what it is. I had a mother once call 911 because a kid stuck a piece of candy in his ear. And that was an emergency to her because she couldn't get it out. So we came and we took care of it. That's what we do. Doesn't matter how little. You know, I've also had the opposite. I've had people with chest pain not call because they didn't want to bother us. Call us. That's what we're here for. That's what we set the 911 system up for. Use the number and call us and we'll come help. So obviously if there's a fire, any kind of fire, I don't care if it's food on the stove that's filling your house with smoke, we can come and set up fans and blow the smoke out of your house. We can help with this stuff. That's what we're here for. Any kind of fire, give us a call. Same thing if you need police. Any kind of crime, call us. Obviously if there's any kind of accident or any kind of medical emergency. And again, doesn't matter how big or small, if it's an emergency to you, then it's an emergency. Give us a call and we'll come help. When you call 911, what to expect. First thing the dispatcher wants to know is what's your emergency? They want to know if we want to get police ready, fire department, or an ambulance ready to go. There's somebody else in the room that's going to start the other processes of getting us moving towards you. The one that you're on the phone with, the first thing they want to know is your name and what phone number you're calling from. That way, if you get disconnected, they can call you back, okay? Then they're going to ask you for your location and the nature of the emergency. And as they're getting the information from you over the phone, they're relaying it to another dispatcher, and that dispatcher is calling us at the station and saying, we need you to go to this address and this is what's going on, and we'll update you later once we get more information over the phone. That gets us out the door faster, okay? Who is gonna arrive at your house? Well, first of all, we send a police officer on every call. Police, fire, ambulance, a cruiser's gonna go with them, just in case. So we have 4 fire stations in town now with the new station up north, and we have the public safety facility on Main Street. There are fire engines in each of those stations, and you're gonna get the closest engine to your house when you call us. The ambulance is coming from across the street here at the center fire station, so they may get there a little bit after, but all of our fire trucks are staffed with EMTs who can start assessing the situation before the ambulance gets there, okay? They're gonna evaluate the situation. They're gonna ask you what's going on. If it's a medical emergency, they're gonna talk to you about what your symptoms are, why you called, and they're gonna start getting your vital signs, your blood pressure, your pulse, respirations, your temperature, things like that. A lot of people don't know the difference between basic or advanced life support. Essentially, basic EMTs are trained to assess, they're trained to evaluate your symptoms, and they're gonna be doing basic life support things like oxygen, splinting, bandaging, bleeding control, things like that. Your advanced life support refers to paramedics who can do things like cardiac monitoring, IV medications, any kind of medications. We can intubate you and put a breathing tube in if you're not breathing on your own. We can defibrillate you. We can use what's called 12-lead EKGs, where we can see if you're having a heart attack or not. And then we're going to decide which hospital is best for you to go to. I would say probably 90% of our patients go to Emerson. However, there are certain situations where we're going to go to a more specialized institution. If we put you on an EKG and we see that you're actually having a heart attack, Emerson's probably not the best place for you. We're going to probably go to Leahy or Mass General. Same thing with trauma or burns. If you got a bad burn, we're not going to go to Emerson. We're going to go to a burn center like Mass General or Brigham and Women's. So there's certain situations where we're going to go to the closest, and there's certain situations where we're going to pass the closest hospital and get you to a more specialized center, okay? Most of the time, we try to accommodate your requests. If you say, well, all of my medical care is done at Neshoba in Air. Okay, if it's reasonable and you're stable enough, we're going to take you to Air. That's fine. If we feel that you need immediate attention, we're not going to go to the further hospital just because that's where your doctor is. Your doctor's not going to see you in the ER, okay? If you're having a stroke, we're going to go to Emerson because it's closer. Does that make sense? Okay. The file of life. This is a little envelope that has a little magnet on the back of it and a little pocket in front where you can put your this little white card that has all of your medical information on it. It's something that you can just slap on your refrigerator. So when we walk in, if you're unconscious, we can go to the refrigerator, we can see this, and it's going to have your name and your date of birth and your medication list and your history, any allergies you might have, things that we really need to know in a medical emergency so we don't have to hunt for it if somebody's unconscious. If I'm worried about your blood pressure being too high and I find a medication for blood pressure, I can say, okay, well, maybe they didn't take their blood pressure medication today. That makes sense. Things like that. If I'm going to give you a medication, I want to make sure it's not going to interact with something that you already take. So it's really important for us to know what medications you already take. And if you don't have something like the file of life, then we got to search for pill bottles, and we're going to be going through your cabinets, and we're going to be going through your medicine cabinet in the bathroom and things like that, trying to find clues to what might help us assess the situation or help us treat you. So having this on your refrigerator is really beneficial for us as we're treating you in case of an emergency where you can't communicate to us. These can be picked up at any fire station. We have stacks of them. You can just come by and ask for one. We'll give you one free. I'm not sure, but you can probably order them on Amazon, but the easiest is just stop by the station and ask for them, and we'll give you some. It just helps us out exponentially in an emergency, especially if you're in a situation where you can't speak to us. If you dial 911 by mistake, this is actually a big one, and a lot of people don't think about this. But if you accidentally dial 911 and then go, oh gosh, I didn't mean to do that, and you hang up right away, well, the dispatcher is going to have to think worst case scenario. And they're going to think, well, what if they dialed 911 and then passed out and now they're unconscious? I can't ignore this. Or, God forbid, what if somebody broke into your house and is holding a gun on you and saying, hang up the phone? We have to think, what if this is the worst case scenario? So if you dial 911 and you hang up, we're going to send people to your house to find out what's going on. It's much easier if you just tell the dispatcher, oh gosh, I didn't mean to, or my kid dialed 911 or whatever. I actually found out last week that an inactive iPhone can call 911. Yeah. I've got 8 kids, and the older kids have cell phones, and when they get a new phone, we shut it off and we give them to the younger kids so they can play video games. And the younger kid just accidentally hit a button on the side a couple of times, and apparently if you hit a button on the side a couple of times, it automatically dials 911. And we had 2 cruisers fly into our house with their lights going, trying to find out what's going on. And there's my daughter in the corner with the phone, wondering why it's blinking, saying 911 on it. So yeah, if you call by mistake, don't hang up. Just explain the situation, say, I'm sorry. They may still send somebody out there just to make sure everything's okay, but best case, just tell the dispatcher what's going on, and it should be fine. I guess that's it for me. Anybody have any questions, either in person or online? Don't have any, okay. Well, thank you all very much, and I'm gonna hand it back to Jill real quick.
So thank you for joining us today. We have no questions remotely, is that right? Okay. So again, this program is being taped, and it will be available over the next few weeks for the local Acton cable network. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.